Okay, so here's a quick rundown on the Canon 1014 XLS. On button here, none of these matter, so you can ignore all of this stuff. When you do a battery test, if there's batteries in the camera, you push this button right here. Needle should go into the blue zone. If it's not in the blue zone, if it's in the white, then you want to change your batteries. You always want it in the blue when you press that test. My batteries are dead, so it's not doing anything right now. I always remember to turn it off because you will drain your batteries. And okay, so the batteries go in here. Turn that with a coin. You can pop them all in. It tells you how to put them in. On the trigger, there's a button under here. Pull that, and you can put your handle out. So now you can reach it this way. If you don't want it there, you can close it up. That's how that works. If you want to go into run or run lock mode, you've got an R and an RL. Run is when you push the trigger, it only runs when you run it. Run lock, when you push the trigger down, it runs. When you let go of the trigger, it stops running. I like run lock, but it's your preference, what you like more, if you like to hold the trigger or not. The tally light on the front, you can cover that up if you don't want to see that blinking red light when you're running. What else we got here? We got anything within this orange zone is inside of macro. If you want to go into full macro mode, you push this button down, and then you focus it here. And you'll see the split focus. Full. Let me turn this a bit more so you can see. Full macro mode is when you push that button down, it gets past the 6.5, and you can adjust your focus in here. What else we got here? Your zoom, 6.5 to 65 is your zoom. Focus, obviously, you can rotate that. If you want to use the manual or auto zoom, manual zooms in, pulls away. If you go into low, it's a slower zoom. If you go into high, it's a faster zoom. Leave it in manual if you plan to do any zooming here. Otherwise, you can mess the gears up. So let's see here. You've got your internal filter switch. Some of the cameras have the filters pulled out. Some of them don't. You can find out by looking inside the camera. So you can't see it that way. To look down the lens to try and see if you can see it popping in and out. I believe these ones still have the filters in them, but it's always better to use an external filter if you can. The internal ones, over time, sometimes have changed their densities or warped or whatever. Most of my cameras, I put little cheat sheets on here that tells you what the shutter speeds are, depending on what shutter angle you're using. When you put your film in, it tells you how to do it. 1, you put your film in. 2, you push your film down. 3, you push your film towards the gate. That way it will hold better against the film gate there, just in case it doesn't make good contact. Just remember to push it in once you put it in there. That's it for that stuff. If you open the door and take the film out, it'll reset the counter. The counter is right here. So just make sure that if you take the film out, you always watch your counter before you take the film out, because it'll reset itself back to 0. This is a compensation for the auto exposure. If you want to change your auto exposure, just leave it to 0 for the most part, then you're probably fine. On this side, okay, this is where it gets busy. So you basically want all of your dials to be pointed straight up where the white line is for most basic settings. First dial here is your variable shutter. So it's a 150-degree shutter or a 220-degree shutter. So it gives you more light on the film or less light on the film, more staccato kind of movement at 150. Bright sun, I usually keep it at 150. Low light, I put it at 220. This is your iris control, open and close. So when you're looking through the viewfinder, you will see your iris dial. It'll go back and forth. It'll say what your stop is. So you can push that down. It'll close the iris, hold it up, it'll open the iris. If you push this button, it'll do a lap dissolve. You don't really want to hit that. If it makes some whirring noises while you've rolled and you push this, it's going to rewind the film, and then it's going to wind it back forward again and do a lap dissolve. So just try not to push that button for the most part. Next one over is picture and sound. So it doesn't move, but if you push that in, then you can move it. So P stands for picture, S stands for sound. So if you go over to P, if you're doing a dissolve, it'll do a picture dissolve. If you go over to S, if you're doing a dissolve, it'll go to sound dissolve. Probably doesn't matter for you. This one is if you push the run lock button, you have it locked, and you want to roll for 10 seconds. This one will wait for 10 seconds while you run over in front of the camera and pose, and then it'll roll for 10 seconds. This one will wait for 10 seconds, and it'll roll for 20 seconds. So you probably won't be using most of this stuff. If you go to this one, it's single trigger firing, so it'll just, when you push the trigger down, it'll take 1 frame at a time. This is for your intervalometers, 1 frame every second, 1 frame every 5 seconds, 1 frame every 20 seconds, 1 frame every 60 seconds. And next down here, auto. So fully auto through, if it's on the top there. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. This is for dissolves, lap dissolves. This one is for your iris right here. Apologize for making a mistake there. That's your iris. So opens your iris, closes your iris. If you're in auto, it won't do anything. Auto exposure lock. So you can take your exposure reading and then lock it on auto. Or you can go fully manual and then you've got full control over your iris there. If you're on 18 frames, or 9 frames, or 24 frames, those are your 3 options. If you push this button down while you're rolling, it kicks it into 36 frames. Generally, I don't push that button if there's no film in the camera, so you don't want to burn the motor out. Flash, if you had a flash, generally don't use it. I think that's most of the stuff. There's open and close for the eyepiece. If you don't want any light coming in the eyepiece, if your eye isn't on it, you can open or close. C for close, O for open. Obviously, this is for adjusting your eyepiece for your eye. Loosen this one and move this around as you're looking through until the split focus diopter thing inside gets sharp, and then just lock it again. But just finger tighten it. Don't reef on it because you don't want to break stuff. This stuff is old. That's pretty much it for the camera. I'm thinking if I missed anything. Not really. Yeah, that's all the stuff there. None of the stuff really matters for most of the stuff you'll be doing. You may have a camera that I have had modified for Super Duper 8 or Max 8, which means that the gate was widened slightly, so it's not just doing a 4:3, it's got a bit of a wider image where the sound would normally record. It records picture area. That's about it. Have fun with the camera.